Welcome everyone to Bundoffler. You are watching episode 63. And the subject so many people are talking about is what frankly is a brilliant World Cup, Women's World Cup, Football World Cup taking place in Australia and New Zealand at the moment. And we've reached the pinnacle of the tournament. The finals taking place tomorrow between our own England women's team and Spain. And I'm so happy to be joined by an absolute diehard England fan, Lindsay England, all the way from Sydney, Australia. Lindsay, I'm conscious of the time difference. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Good morning, afternoon, wherever anybody's watching around the universe.
How do you keep track of the time zones? Did it take a long to adjust getting over to Australia and New Zealand?
Oh no, we just forget it and we just get on with it because like even the sun goes around the wrong way around in the sky down under and everything's upside down and back to front. So you just go along with whatever's happening.
Oh, brilliant. I mean, just a bit for listeners, people watching on YouTube, people listening on Spotify. Lindsay is a founder of the organization called Just a Ball Game. And basically, its key aims are to raise awareness around LGBT inclusion and visibility, promoting LGBT history and achievements. And I've known Lindsay for a while. She's been doing some great work for many, many years. And it's wonderful to see the recognition that your organisation's getting, Lindsay. So well done. And I remember when you came onto London Turkish radio about 12 years ago. I don't know how old Just a Ball Game was back then, but you came onto the Drive Time show, and we had a chat back then. So it's a bit of a nice unifying moment for us to come together again on a show. So. Right, listen, you're at the World Cup. Obviously, the third place game has just taken place. I think you was in the fan park, wasn't you?
I was actually in the Cheers bar, but it was full of Swedish fans and also the Active Matildas fan group who we met a few days ago, and that they were all there filling it out, and also maybe around 25 England fans because. BBC were in recording Football Focus as well. How they managed to do that with all that noise and chaos going on over the two floors, I don't know, but it happened.
Excellent. And people were pinging you messages and pictures because you was there in the background as the likes of Alex Scott was being interviewed, I understand.
Yeah, so we had Alex Scott and she was chattering away she was joined by Farrah Williams, who I'd seen earlier at the Legends game. Ellen White and Rachel Brown. So there was all chatting away, and we were just carrying on partying and getting on with things and everything. And a few of them come over and said hello after they finished recording. And fair play to Rachel Brown and that she'd seen me the other night at the semi-final and that. And Rachel's seen me around for a lot of years, and she come over and thanked me for supporting the Lionesses and bought me a pint of Stonewood. So I was well happy.
Nice one. I mean, just give an insight, Lindsay, in terms of obviously you travelled out before the World Cup started, and you really got World Cup fever a number of weeks or even months in advance of the World Cup starting, because you had this brilliant St George's flag where you got I don't know how many signatures of well wishers on there, and you presented that whilst you were in Australia as well, didn't you? So. You've been active and campaigning and supporting the whole, the team for quite a while.
Yeah, so I've been following the Lionesses like persistently in the qualifiers and the friendlies and things home and away for over 16 years now, and I retired my original flag, got the new one done just after the Euros went, just in time for the qualifiers to actually get here. Excuse me, my throat. And everybody loved it when I first presented it, and it was at the game. This was media people, this was the fans that were out there, and then when I put stuff on social media after, everybody loved it. So back in April now. I got some funding together, and GMB members contributed to that. So I'm always grateful for my trade union support.
Excellent.
And we had the giant 20-foot version of it made. And then myself and Steve been to a few Lionesses games and WSL games since. And we collected 4,500 signatures to bring out here on the flag. And again, it was thanks to GMB helping with the cost for the extra baggage allowance coming out. We got that and our other resources and things brought out here for the whole month to hand out and to use at the fan events and things that we've been doing. And 3 weeks ago, we got to go to a Lionesses training session. And we handed over the flag to Serena and to Millie Bright, and the team have had it with them. Saw Jill Scott a few days ago, and she mentioned the flag, so she's seen it, and she said it was amazing to have so many signatures and well wishes and messages of good luck. So yeah, it was job done.
Oh, that sounds so amazing. I mean, for people watching and listening, just share your experiences, just what it's like to be there, and given the wonderful journey so far, which hopefully will be come to a brilliant conclusion tomorrow. But what's it actually been like being at the World Cup?
No, it's amazing, and it's probably blown me away the last few days as to exactly what has happened and what everyone has achieved. This is my 5th World Cup now. I went to the Men's World Cups in '98 and 2006. And then I've been to the Women's World Cup back in Germany in 2011, France 4 years ago, and this one now. And it's just got better and better and better. And it's such an inclusive atmosphere. It's such a welcoming and friendly and family event coming to the World Cup, and just the amount of people that have turned out, have bought tickets, that have watched it at home and then come out on the streets later and things, and the next day, people watching it at work, regardless of the fan parks and the fan events and the pubs and everything else where you usually see, sport being played and that it really is, and all the big cities that we've been to around Australia for the games, everybody's made an effort, made everybody feel welcome, and as usual, it's just been fans from all over the world supporting the women's game, women supporting each other, just getting on with it. Huge LGBT support, of course, because of the fan base and the players from right across all of the teams, and it's just been a hell of a party atmosphere for 4.5 weeks now, and most of us have said the last few days we just don't want it to end. And that's aside from the team and the tremendous effort that the team have put in and the success they've achieved.
Yeah, I mean, did you expect England to do this well? Because a lot of the favourites have sort of fallen down the wayside, and obviously Spain isn't to be underestimated. But there's going to be a new winner of the Women's FIFA World Cup tomorrow, because neither England or Spain have won it previously. But England are going in as massive favourites, aren't they?
It seems to be that way, yeah. And I know Serena and the players and everybody around them and that have been playing it down a little bit, and they've been in their little bubble and they've got on with stuff. And it's like, and Serena actually said again in the press conference a couple of days ago, it's just a game. And when we spoke to her, when we handed the flag over, she looked at our Just a Ball Game T-shirt as well that we handed over, and she went, you're right, this is it. It is just a game. And it's that, and I think keeping them grounded helps with the skill and the what they've got, and the the collectiveness of the team and everything, and the hard work that they've all put in together, and what they've achieved so far. I mean, achieving the Euros success last year was amazing anyway, but this is a massive step up, and I don't think too many people actually acknowledge or realise how big a step up it is from winning the Euros and doing so well last year to being on the world stage. This is very, very difficult to do that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be difficult tomorrow night because Spain are not any pushovers. They had a terrible game against Japan, which most people will have seen and thought. So we know they have the weaknesses, and we know if we catch them off guard, the Lionesses can get into them and rile them and hopefully do similar sort of things. But it's going to be a hard game tomorrow. But I think the preparation the Lionesses have had, their togetherness, and the experience they've had over the last few weeks, hopefully it'll see them through, and hopefully they'll turn it on again like they did a few nights ago.
Yeah, they've had some tough games, haven't they, England? And some of those games that some people thought would be a bit of a walkover. The matches against, I think the first game was against Haiti. A country with incredibly sort of poor infrastructure, scarce resources. And Haiti were absolutely brilliant. And same with the Jamaican team. Nigeria, the teams, there's been some real surprises in this World Cup. But what's been your highlights so far, Lindsay, over the last few weeks?
It was great to watch this performance against China and that, but I would say definitely the semi-final, because it was a whole day event. It started off as us all as fans just getting together, and the little bit of like the media exposure that's been growing and growing throughout the tournament for us as well. And when we had our fan events, we all came together, and the television was there filming us like they have been doing for ITV. And it was a step up again. It was just like, the singing and the dancing and the cheering on, even without the television cameras there. It just galvanized everybody. Everybody knew that in a few hours' time we was going to a World Cup semi-final, and everything just lifted, and it just lifted like 1,000 times to what it had been for the other games. And it was the same crew of us mainly, and then other people who just flown in and that from that day. But everybody's not. It wasn't so much expectations or complacency or anything around it. It's just everybody was just like, we can do this, and together. And it was like everybody, just getting themselves revved up and going, and knowing that we was going to go to the ground and give as much support as we could against a partisan crowd and a home crowd, and it was so difficult because there's so few England fans here compared to like the home nation that we were playing in the semi-final. It was ridiculous, and because we were so spread out, but we did our bit, we did our best, and we tried to make our voices heard. And the team did it on the pitch, and what an amazing performance they put in from start to finish.
It was an astonishing performance. I thought all of the goals were really well taken. The craft, the technical ability. I think Kerr's goal was stunning for Australia. England's first goal was an amazing shot. And I particularly love the reverse pass through ball from Hemp to Russo for the third goal. And I'm so glad she's come to Arsenal. Hopefully we can go on and do some great things in the WSL. But I mean, on the wider point around women's football, Lindsay, it's only actually been 30 years, I think, since the English FA took women's football under its wing officially, so to speak. So, even English women's football has made such massive strides in just 3 decades. I mean, what do you think is down to the success? I know what you mentioned about the Euros just a couple of years ago, but it seems to be incrementally getting more and more popular, women's football. What do you put it down to?
I think it's a few things, and I think like when you're saying you're going back 30 years ago, and that when you think about it in those terms, that the World Cup had already happened. The first World Cup had happened 2 years earlier, and the US had won it, and their infrastructure had already been built on colleges and universities and things like that.
Yeah.
And we was nowhere near that, and it was a good few years since then, since we appeared in a World Cup finals, and then some of the results weren't great. But we've put things together. I think it helped then in 2005 when we hosted a Euros ourselves, and that there were one or two down aspects from that. things changed, I would have thought, around about 2011 when we played out in Germany for the World Cup. I don't know if that was to do with the fact that it was more European and based, and you saw things and there was slightly bigger crowds and that, although there still weren't too many. But then I think the turning point was a year after at the Olympics. I think having an Olympics team on showcasing on what's a massive sporting event anyway, and people being able to watch it and people being able to get tickets at reasonable prices. Again, it's a family orientated event, and that folk went along and bought into it and recognised that women's football was on the up. You know, women can play. People love to play. It's a great event to go to. It's cheap and cheerful without being knocking the product that you've got. That's not necessarily to say that it's not good enough, because it is. And then it's just grown and grown and taken off from there. And the WSL and then the national leagues and all the pyramid around in the women's game have just been building up, like every 12 months, just year in, year out, just building and that. And I think it's only going to go from strength. And it's growing now around the world as well. And that's why I think you've seen such a fantastic World Cup this time around, because those teams that you didn't expect to play, they might not have the infrastructure, and we didn't have them several years ago either. So they might be at the same stage as, say, we were at in Canada in 2015. They don't necessarily have that much infrastructure and experience and everything, but they've gone out and they've given it a go, and fair play to them. And it's like, what's going to go on in 4 years' time? You know, once this is over and done with, there's going to be even more pressure from teams around the world, because it is such a global event and you're playing slightly different systems, slightly different leagues and players, and you're having to adapt to compensate for all this. Because like I've just said, it is totally different from playing in European competitions. And until you see it happening live, I don't think you appreciate that much. But again, it's just, and a lot of it is just down to hard work and time and effort from the leagues, from the countries investing in those leagues and believing in women and women's sport, but also the women themselves participating, from coaching, from the whole backroom teams and things like that. And then people like in the media investing, and other organisations and other products wanting to push women's sport forward. And, you know, and then the fan base as well, just buying into it and really looking at it. And it's great for so many young girls and young women to see what can happen and what they can dream of and believe can happen to them in a few years' time. And I think showcasing that globally is only going to transform everything moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I mean, before I finish off by asking you about your predictions for tomorrow's big game, there's a big question around Lauren James, and obviously she's had the unfortunate episode of the red card. The England manager's really got a big decision to make for the final. She's known for being very loyal and for being consistent and playing the same players. Obviously, the changes that was made for the semi-final and the matches before that have worked really well. What would you do if you was England manager? Because Lauren James has obviously played 4 matches. She's scored 3 goals. She's got 3 assists. She's clearly been a massive player for the England women's team. But can you do what she did and get away with it, and then expect to come in and play in the biggest game of what will be for many of the England women?
It's a tough decision, isn't it? And who'd want to be Serena right now? But I'm sure she's had a plan in place all along, and compensated for eventualities which could have come up during the tournament. And so I'm sure she knows in her own mind what she wants to do. She's probably still, even now, deliberating as to whether or not she'll make the right decision as to whether she starts with Lauren James, or whether she brings her on, or whether she doesn't play her at all. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, who'd want to be in that position? It's an amazing position to be in, and that, but who'd want to make those decisions? I mean, personally, I know what Lauren can do, and I know what she's done in the tournament. But at the same time, we've had a settled side for 2 games, and that's brought somebody. I mean, Ella Toon stepped up to the mark with the goal the other night, but more importantly, I think Lauren Hemp came more into the fore and played up front for the last couple of games. And Lauren Hemp, somebody I've seen as a youngster at like 15 and 16 with some of the other players and that. And she was fast then, and she used to think nothing of literally brushing aside the whole of the rest of the team. She'd pick the ball up in her own half, go past 7 or 8 players and put the ball in the back of the net, and the speed that she had. She's not had that too much in the last couple of years, because as she's matured, other players and other teams have matured and they've worked her out. And she's just coming back to that as well the last couple of games. So it's a tough decision. If it was me, I think I might keep things as it's been for the last couple of games, and then you've got, like we had last year in the Euros, when we had 3 or 4 players to come in as impact players, and I might just bring Lauren back in, not just because I don't think it's right to bring her back in, or she's not, but she's been out of the loop for a couple of games and out of that game time. And even though it's only a couple of games, this is a World Cup we're talking about against world-class players. Yeah. So I think it might work best if we have the team the same, and if things are not working out for whatever reason, or even if they are working perfectly for whatever reason, what a player to bring on in Lauren James at any point during that game tomorrow. But if Serena goes with it and says, like, I want Lauren James to start, then fair play to her, and yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, Serena will definitely have some great options in terms of impact substitutions. But let's hope she doesn't need them tomorrow. But okay, so the final question to you, Lindsay, sort of a 2-part question. Spain's been really impressive, apart from that the blip against was it Japan when they lost 4-0. They've looked very impressive, technically really gifted, and they're very possession based in their style of play. I think I saw a statistic that showed that they've averaged about 70% possession in their games. So England will obviously have to adjust to that. So how do you think that adjustment will look tomorrow in terms of England's tactics?
I think what we've got to do is learn from all the games we've played so far. So we've had 6 games so far to get us to where we are now in the tournament, and maybe pick little bits out of what we've had to learn from all of those games to keep that possession for ourselves. And if we don't, and if it's a team like Spain who are keeping possession, again, just learn from the other teams that we've played when they've had possession, and just take it on from that, and just be patient and just do our own thing and play our own game. And then if need be, step it up a little bit, or maybe even, step back a little bit if we need to do that, and just give ourselves that little bit of pressure taken off of ourselves. And then, at the end of the day, it's a cup competition, it's a World Cup final, anything can happen. And if the time's right and the moments are right and the chances are there, I'm sure we've got the squads that'll take it and just get on with it. And I've got every confidence in the players. I think they want this. I think they know how to get this. And I think a manager like we've got at the moment with Serena, she sees that in them. She manages them, and she goes out there and lets them play. After all, Febsy, it's just a ball game.
You had to finish on that one, didn't you? Go on then, what's your prediction, Lindsay? Give us your prediction for tomorrow.
Well, I was wrong with the scorers the other night, but I got the score right in being 3-1. So my prediction to tomorrow, I'd love to say 2-0, but I think it's going to be 2-1, but I think we'll just edge it.
Well, let's hope you're right, Lindsay. Let's hope that the whole country will be watching the England women's team, and hopefully they will bring home the Women's World Cup. You've been watching Bundofla. My sincere thanks to Lindsay England from Just a Ball Game, joining us all the way from Sydney, Australia. You can follow us on Twitter. Just search Bundofla_Bundofla, and we're also on YouTube. Thank you everyone for watching or listening. Keep safe. Thank you very much, Lindsay.
Thank you. Bye, folks. Enjoy the game tomorrow.